faithfully sharing value and interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're going to interpret Goethe's The Sorrows of Young Werther for you. In 1774, a phenomenal literary work emerged in Germany and across Europe. This novel, under 140 pages, sparked a nationwide reading craze in Germany and had a huge impact worldwide. Oh, countless passionate young people were moved to tears and heartbroken while reading it. They imitated the protagonist's style, speech, and even copied his suicide. This phenomenal trend was later named the Werther effect by scholars. And this novel is The Sorrows of Young Werther we're discussing today. The novel not only made the 25-year-old Goethe a world-class writer, but also became a landmark in German literature. Historically, as the first global bestseller, it helped German literature stand equal with French and English literature. Even during Napoleon's invasion of Germany, he specifically discussed issues from The Sorrows of Young Werther with Goethe. The great literary master Goethe is hailed as the greatest figure in German literature. He was born on August 28, 1749, in Frankfurt, Germany, into a wealthy bourgeois family. Alongside the famous poet Schiller, he pioneered German literature's classical era, creating vast works like poetry, drama, novels, essays, and theories on zoology, botany, and color. Goethe's top achievements include two masterpieces. One, conceived over his lifetime, claimed to encapsulate 300 years of European Renaissance history. Faust, and the other is The Sorrows of Young Werther, we're exploring today. This is an epistolary novel. Goethe's inspiration came from the epistolary novel by French thinker Rousseau. Julie, or the New Héloïse, tells the tragic love story between noble Julie and commoner Saint Pro, sparking Goethe's imagination. He even said he was the protagonist, Saint Pro. So when writing about Werther, a commoner, he first recalled the New Héloïse epistolary style. Goethe innovated on Rousseau's form, boldly setting the time to 3 years prior, May 4th, 1771, to December 24, 1772, creating intense realism and era feel. To enhance this authenticity, Goethe published the first edition anonymously, inventing an editor who claimed a suicidal Werther had written letters to friends before his death. Then this editor compiled and published them. Goethe even added intentional footnotes, obscuring names and places, making readers believe it protected real people's privacy. All this created spiritual intimacy, making readers confidants of Werther's private emotions. Or, as the editor's preface stated, readers facing similar struggles could find solace here. Simultaneously, the book truly voiced the sentiments of that era's youth, letting them see their own reflections within it. It said young people then even frantically imitated the protagonist's clothing style. Its massive impact stemmed from directly reflecting German daily life with raw emotional truth. First, let's briefly outline the main content. The novel has two main parts. The first contains 39 letters, plus one diary entry spanning 1771 over roughly 4 months from May to September, except one short letter to Lotte. The other 38 were all from Werther to his friend. From letters to Wilhelm, we learn Werther was middle class, leaving home to settle inheritance disputes and mourn his deceased childhood sweetheart. He first stayed in a city, then moved to a picturesque village called Valheim. In German, it means chosen home, akin to a second homeland. Werther felt refreshed and joyful here. He also met the local Judge S. Oh, one day when locals held a dance, Werther went to fetch Judge S.'s daughter Charlotte and instantly fell hopelessly in love. Afterward, he visited Lotte daily, sharing joyful times. But when Lotte's fiancé Albert returned, Werther's spirits plummeted, leaving him in deep despair. Werther actually admired Albert and even befriended him. When he realized he still couldn't give up his love for Lotte. He left without saying goodbye, in agony. Following his friend Wilhelm's advice, he became a secretary at a legation. Part 2 contains letters from October 20th, 1771 to December 6th, 1772. One to Lotte, one to Albert and Lotte, and 43 to his friend Wilhelm. During this time, Werther was busy with official duties. His boss was stubborn and narrow-minded, surrounded by vain, boring people. Werther remained an outsider at the legation. Oh, one day while visiting Count C, local nobles gathered there. They didn't want commoner-born Werther present. So Werther was politely asked to leave by the Count, and the incident became town gossip. A noblewoman friend kindly reminded Werther to know his place, which infuriated him. Adding to his depression, Lotte and Albert married without telling him. He resigned and went to a prince's hunting lodge to unwind. At the lodge, Werther was well treated but still uncomfortable. He left after weeks and returned to where he'd met Lotte. Walheim. There he found everything transformed, all deceived by fate. The village's wealthy man died, and his son's inheritance proved worthless. The farmhand who loved his landlady was driven away by her brother, unable to return to his beloved. Even the village's ancient walnut tree was cut down by the new pastor's wife, but his deepest pain was hopeless love for Lotte. Lotte and Albert welcomed Werther as an old friend. Facing her gentle innocence, he suppressed his feelings, dreaming of her intensely. He grew more tormented and depressed. Up to this point, the novel uses Werther's first-person perspective entirely. In the final section, editor Goethe employs a remarkably sophisticated, modern narrative technique. The farmhand who loved his landlady murdered the new hire out of jealousy. This fatally influenced Werther, making him misanthropic and resolute about suicide. As for Lotte, she was troubled by gossip over Werther's daily visits. She made her stance clear, hoping Werther would stop fantasizing about her. Desperate, Werther argued with Lotte's husband Albert before leaving heartbroken. And these sections use third-person perspective but interweave Werther's notes, letters to Wilhelm, undated fragments, and a final farewell letter. The fragmented arrangement, shifting between first-person letters and third-person narration, powerfully reveals Werther's inner conflict, creating aesthetic tension. Yeah. Goethe also incorporated poetry by ancient British bard Ossian to enhance the novel. Finally, Werther wept bitterly while reading Ossian's poems beside Lotte, leaving her emotionally overwhelmed. Trembling, she said, "This is the last time, Werther. You won't see me again," then locked herself in the next room. Werther whispered farewell Lotte at the door, went home, and wrote his suicide note to her. He had decided to end his life. The next day, using a pistol borrowed from Albert, he shot himself in the forehead. Thus ends Werther's story. The Chinese title uses troubles, but the German original, Leiden, means extreme spiritual suffering. So Werther's pain isn't annoyance, but deeper torment. Werther's torment manifests in love and freedom are two core themes. The first theme is love, unquestionably a love story with romance as its backbone. French thinker Roland Barthes wrote a slim volume calling The Sorrows of Young Werther a lover's discourse, viewing it as lyrical yet anxious monologue. In this sense, the book isn't about Werther and Lotte's love, but solely Werther's lovelorn soliloquy. As a lover, Werther is a Greek-style tragic hero. Though Goethe wrote in 18th century fashionable epistolary style, literarily, his approach remains traditional, European, and Greek tragic in essence. Per Aristotle's theory, its purpose is to evoke pity for the character and fear of capricious fate, thus purging emotions. Conflicts and tragedies are often irreconcilable, carrying a fatalistic hue. Simply put, ancient Greek tragedies depict heroes entangled with fate, stories of life's dignity versus human suffering. For Werther, his fate begins with love. He left home to escape heartbreak, only to plunge headfirst into love's snare again. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. When Werther rode to fetch Lotte, a friend warned, "Don't fall for her, she's engaged." This line foreshadowed what was to come, but our hero remained oblivious to his fate. The moment he saw Lotte, his fate was sealed. Witness this famous passage. As I stepped onto the porch and entered, the most enchanting sight greeted my eyes. In the foyer, 6 children, from 2 to 11, crowded around a young woman. Graceful and medium built, she wore an elegant white dress with red bows at sleeves and collar. She held dark bread, cutting portions by age and appetite for each sibling. Her tender distribution moved Werther. The doorway framed Lotte like a painting, perfect for love at first sight. The curtain rose on someone unseen before. Her full presence revealed, then consumed by the lover's gaze. This scene presented his beloved. A similar technique appears in Hong Kong comedy Flirting Scholar, when Stephen Chow's Tang Bo Hu meets Gong Li's Qi Yu Shang. She's handing buns to the poor, radiating benevolent charm. Werther was first drawn to Lotta's beauty and kindness. In the carriage, discovering shared literary tastes deepened his admiration. At the dance, witnessing Lottie's graceful moves sealed his fate. Rain suddenly fell. They went to the window, hearing thunder, watching spring showers, breathing fresh air. Melancholy Lotte placed her hand in Werther's. In that scene, both recalled German poet Klopstock's Spring Ode. Werther saw this as proof their souls were connected, so the floodgates of emotion opened. He fell hopelessly in love with Lotte. Notably, Werther became the lover while Lotte wasn't reciprocating. She was merely his emotional projection, an idol worshipped on his love altar. Anything the idol touched, he adored with passionate obsession. Werther's fetishistic gestures multiplied endlessly. He kissed the bow Lotte gave him for his birthday, kissed her letters, even got sand used to dry ink in his mouth, and finally, the suicide pistol. Werther kissed it repeatedly because Lotte had touched it. The most striking example of this love idolatry appears in Werther's July 18, 1771 letter. Werther wrote, "What if I can't see Lotte today? I sent my servant just to have someone near me who'd been close to her today. I waited impatiently for his return. The moment I saw him, I felt indescribable joy. If not for shame, I'd have grabbed his head and kissed him. I felt Lotte's gaze had lingered on his face. Cheeks, coat, buttons, and collar ruff all became sacred and precious to me. The love idol's magic even sanctified Lotte's gaze, making Werther want to kiss a man bathed in her sight. Yet even sacred idols are mortal. Mortals care not just about feelings, but also etiquette, customs, and social rules. So at the dance, they danced until tired, sat down and ate oranges Werther brought. Lotte politely offered the first slice to a neighboring girl. This small act stabbed Werther's heart like a knife. The scene actually foreshadowed the hero's tragic end. As a lover, Werther focused only on them two. Like his post-dance letter said, the whole world around us was forgotten. But as a love idol, Lotte still lived in real society. So we see Werther follow Lotte to visit the pastor and a sick lady, finally meeting fiancé Albert. In fact, Werther didn't hate Albert, nor feel deep-seated jealousy. Werther wasn't deeply introspective. His anguish stemmed from specific scenes, like seeing Albert hold Lotte's waist, meaning his opponent wasn't a person, but the secular society forcing him to share her. This is systemic loneliness and suffering. In this sense, Werther embodies tragic nobility, a key charm of the book. Amidst this pain, Werther identified with all heartbroken souls. He related to the madman who once loved Lotte and picked winter flowers, and to the young farmer who loved a widow and killed his rival. In the flower-picking madman, Werther saw his own reflection. He too loved madly. But he retained shreds of sanity, unable to fully embrace madness and unconscious bliss like that man. This clarity worsened his torment. He sympathized with the farmer, believing him innocent despite murder. His love was pure and fervent. Though Werther vaguely considered killing Albert, then Lotte, then himself, he ultimately refrained. Here, Werther's dignity and nobility as a tragic hero shone brightest. He chose self-sacrifice for Lotte and Albert's sake. He couldn't fully discard reason, nor resist absolutely like the young farmer. For Werther, escape routes were sealed. Only suicide remained to end the pain. Lottie gets little development in the novel. Honestly, her characterization is flat and lacks depth. What captivates us isn't Lottie-Werther interactions, but Werther's self-directed monodrama. The reason? Resonance and empathy spring from Werther's anguished perspective. Oh, imagine telling this from Lotte's view, the troubles of young Lottie. Now that might have been riveting. Werther's suffering wasn't just unrequited love, but unattained freedom. This is the novel's second theme. Simply put, Werther's opponent wasn't a person, but secular society. Werther's suffering is fundamentally systemic loneliness and pain. He clashes with the entire world, not because of love, but due to his free, spirited nature. Werther's essence is that of an artist, more precisely, both a painter and a poet. Werther is, first and foremost, a painter, evidenced throughout the text as he often compares himself to one. For example, he describes enthusiastically painting a pair of brothers in his letters, quickly completing a well-composed sketch, and sharing artistic insights, all before falling for Lotte. Afterward, love made him neglect painting. He admitted, "I've let my painting slide," until resigning and moving to the Count's hunting lodge. There, he said the most meaningful thing he did was paint. Simultaneously, Werther was a poet. His most frequent reading was Homer's Odyssey, and he translated ancient bard Ossian's poetry. Reading Werther's translations at the novel's end, we must acknowledge he too was an exceptional poet. Werther's heartfelt letters showcase supreme artistry in character portrayal, nature description, and emotional expression. The entire work brims with poetic richness. It could itself be called a poignant narrative poem. Werther's dual identity as painter-poet is inseparable from Goethe's own experiences. Goethe showed early poetic talent, writing copious youth verses. He was also a master painter, leaving acclaimed works and unique artistic theories. It's just that Goethe's literary fame overshadowed his painting brilliance. But Goethe deeply craved painting and architecture. Art held profound self-identity for him. In 1777, after becoming Europe-renowned for Werther, he traveled to the Harz Mountains, still pseudonymously as Painter Weber. In 1786, when abruptly leaving Weimar court for Italy, he again adopted a painter's identity, Philipp Müller. Indeed, Werther's painter-poet duality is Goethe's own self-projection within the work. Werther expressed many artistic views in his letters, believing that both painting and poetry hinge on nature. He said, "Only nature is infinitely rich. Only nature creates great artists. Nature is the yardstick by which the young protagonist measures everything." This, on the other hand, is why Werther clashed with society. In German context, nature often opposes human society. Anything societal seems artificial and insincere to nature, lacking authenticity. Thus, Werther embraced natural people like innocent children and simple villagers, while despising pedantic nobles and hypocritical townsfolk. He advocated art's return to nature, letting genius flourish freely, opposing all rigid conventions. He valued natural, genuine emotions, treasuring his heart above all. Scorning religious dogmas and legal morals, he conflicted with rational figures like Albert. The entire novel depicts Werther's struggle against unnatural human society. In German literature, artists often star as protagonists opposing secular society. This Künstlerroman became a key narrative tradition. traditionally called Bildungsroman, coming-of-age stories. These artist society clashes fundamentally represent individual freedom versus social rules. This is clearest in Werther's May 26, 1771 letter, the novel's thematic core. He wrote, "All conventions, however explained, destroy our true feelings and expressions of nature." For example, a smitten youth stays by his beloved all day to show devotion, only for a servant to intervene, telling her you must love moderately like others. Well, budget your time and calculate your assets. Heeding this advice, he becomes another promising youth. But his love perishes. Had he been an artist, his art would too. To Werther, social rules ruin love and art, why he called humanity a prison. His later actions, including loving Lotte, were attempts to shake this prison's bars. Unfortunately, Werther was not just an artist, but also part of the bourgeois class. In a hierarchical society, personal freedom largely depends on social origin and power. Oh, from his March 15th to 1772 letters, we see the entire aristocratic circle fiercely rejecting Werther. Even his noble woman friend, pressured by society, carefully complained about the gossip Werther caused. In extreme anger, Werther wrote he wished to slit his own artery. These consecutive letters about pursuing eternal freedom show Werther's intense agitation. So he resolutely resigned, returning to Lotte to reclaim past happiness. Yet all efforts proved futile. When all failed, suicide remained Werther's only act of rebellion. Since I can't shake these bars, I'll choose dignified departure, like Kuai Yuan who suicided, saying, "How can purity bear worldly filth?" Werther chose death to oppose meaningless life, ending his existence to defy this cold world, honoring his heart and love. Through self-annihilation, he manifested universal values, liberation of individuality and emotional freedom, unaltered by society's prison. If Werther compromised, became rational and conventional, he'd cease being Werther. Goethe intentionally named his protagonist. Werther in German means worthy person. In Goethe's writing, Werther is this worthy man, dying for his convictions. 3 years later, March 23, 1775, American Patrick Henry declared in Virginia's legislature, "Give me liberty or give me death," capturing Europe's collective yearning. So upon publication, the Sorrows of Young Werther swept through Germany and Western Europe. But at the same time, this book wasn't just written for that era, it depicts the eternal fate of human youth. Between personal passion and harsh reality, between individual freedom and social constraints, Werther's thoughts, feelings, and actions deeply resonated with countless youths across generations. In 1922, during China's turbulent and transformative years, Mr. Guo Moreau translated The Sorrows of Young Werther. It also sparked strong reactions domestically. That short poem before the novel's second edition, "Youthful men who would not love, fair maidens who would not yearn," sung incessantly by many Chinese youths, it became a bold challenge to traditions and established notions. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 years have passed. During this time, generations of Chinese youths have grown up. Like their predecessors, they continue to yearn for love, ponder human society's realities and constraints, and struggle through life's depressions and pains. Right, right. Some say history is astonishingly similar. Actually, it's not history that's similar, but human fate. As long as the passion of youth doesn't cool, the classic charm of The Sorrows of Young Werther will never fade. Well, that concludes our interpretation of The Sorrows of Young Werther. The reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.